Close your eyes for a second and imagine you win $2 million tomorrow. New house, new car, you quit your job. For the first few weeks, you're on top of the world. Now here's the actual measured question researchers have asked real lottery winners. 12 months later, how happy are you compared to before you won? The honest answer? Almost exactly where you started. I'm not just telling you money can't buy happiness. That's a lazy answer, and it's not even fully true. I'm showing you the actual mechanism in your brain that resets your happiness no matter how much money you make, the real research on where more income does help, and the specific things you can do to actually break the pattern. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your brain resets your happiness after every raise, purchase, or upgrade, and the neuroscience behind why that reset happens. What the actual research says about money and happiness, including a major study that got the popular version of this topic wrong for over a decade. And last but not least, 3 specific ways to spend money that genuinely hold up over time instead of fading in a matter of weeks. Welcome back to You're Rich Too, where we understand money, grow wealth, and change your life together. Here's what's actually happening. The idea that humans have a kind of emotional set point, a baseline level of happiness we tend to return to, regardless of what happens to us, good or bad. One of the most cited studies on this, from 1978, compared 3 groups: recent major lottery winners, people who had recently become paraplegic after an accident, and a control group of ordinary people. The finding that made this study famous? The lottery winners were not significantly happier than the control group, and they actually reported less pleasure from small, everyday moments. Now, to be fair, that study was small, decades old, and later research has added real nuance to it. Not every part of life fully resets. People going through unemployment, chronic pain, or the loss of a spouse often don't fully return to their old baseline, at least not quickly. Adaptation is real, but it's not absolute or identical for everyone. But for everyday financial upgrades, the new phone, the nicer apartment, the bigger paycheck, adaptation is remarkably consistent and well documented. Here's the mechanism. The pleasure you feel isn't really about the object. It's about the contrast between your old normal and your new normal. Your brain's reward system responds most strongly to unexpected novel improvements, not to sustained states. The first week in the nicer apartment, your brain is constantly noticing the improvement. More space, better light, a nicer kitchen. That noticing is what feels good. But within weeks, your brain stops noticing. The nicer apartment isn't an improvement anymore, it's just where you live now. The contrast is gone, and so is the boost. You didn't lose the apartment, you lost the noticing of the apartment. Think about the last big purchase you made that you were genuinely excited about. Be honest with yourself for a second. How much of that excitement is still there right now? In 2010, Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman and economist Angus Deaton published a famous study using survey data from 450,000 Americans. They're finding day-to-day emotional well-being, how good people feel moment to moment, rose with income only up to about $75,000 a year. Above that, more income barely moved the needle on daily mood. That number became one of the most repeated statistics in personal finance content. Money only buys happiness up to about $75,000. You've probably heard some version of it. Here's what most people never heard. In 2021, a researcher named Matthew Killingsworth ran a much larger, more precise study using real-time mood tracking on people's phones and found something different. For most people, happiness kept rising well beyond $75,000 with no clear plateau, all the way past $200,000 and higher. These 2 findings seemed to contradict each other. So in 2023, a third researcher did something rare in science. They teamed up specifically to figure out why their data disagreed, and they found the real answer. For most people, happiness rises steadily with income, log style with no plateau in normal earning ranges. But for a specific unhappy minority, often people dealing with real hardship like poor health, grief, or serious relationship problems, extra money above a certain point stopped helping because money wasn't the thing causing their unhappiness in the first place. That's the actually accurate finding. Money keeps helping most people's happiness further than the popular myth suggests, but only up to the limit of what money can fix. It cannot fix grief. It cannot fix loneliness. Past a certain point, the problem stops being financial. So the honest takeaway isn't money doesn't matter. It's money reliably improves your life up to the edge of your actual problems and completely stalls out the moment you're using it to try to solve a problem it was never built to solve. So if the treadmill resets your happiness on stuff, what actually resists that reset? Researchers have tested this directly, and 3 specific patterns show up again and again. Number 1, experiences over things. Studies on this consistently find that money spent on experiences produces longer-lasting satisfaction than money spent on possessions. Objects sit still and become invisible through habituation. Experiences become memories, and memories tend to get slightly better with time, not worse, because your brain edits out the boring parts and keeps the highlights. You'll never look back fondly on the friction of buying a couch. You will look back fondly on a trip, even the parts that went wrong at the time. Number 2, buying time, not just things. A 2017 study found that people who spent money to buy back time, hiring help for chores, paying for delivery instead of an errand, outsourcing tasks they dread, reported higher life satisfaction than people who spent the same amount of money on physical purchases. The mechanism is simple. Time doesn't fully adapt the way objects do, because what you do with that reclaimed time, rest, connection, focus, keeps generating value rather than sitting on a shelf losing its novelty. Number 3, spending on other people. A well-known study published in the journal Science had people spend a small amount of money either on themselves or on someone else, then measured their happiness that same day. The people who spent it on someone else were consistently happier, even though the amounts were small and the choice was essentially random. This one holds up across income levels and even across countries. Spending on other people doesn't fully adapt the same way self-focused spending does, likely because it's tied to a relationship, not just an object. Experiences over things, time over stuff, other people over yourself. None of these require more money than you already spend. They just redirect the same money toward things your brain doesn't erase as fast. Here's what actually happened in this video. Your brain doesn't respond to your state. It responds to change. That's why upgrades fade. It's not a flaw in you. It's how the reward system in every human brain is built. So here's a real question. Think about the last 5 things you bought that you were excited about. How many are still bringing you joy right now today? And how many quietly became invisible the moment they stopped being new? If this made you think differently about your last few purchases, subscribe to You Are Rich Too. Remember, you are rich too. You just need to spend it on things your brain won't erase. See you next week.